Dr. Yuki's delicate fingers trembled as she adjusted the microscope settings for the third time that morning. The crystalline samples from Kepler 442b's surface continued to puzzle her team of researchers. These formations seemed to grow in patterns that defied everything the Galactic Council knew about mineral development. The research station orbited peacefully around the distant world, home to 47 scientists from 3 different species. Yuki belonged to the Rillans, a gentle race whose soft scales shimmered in shades of blue and green. Her people had never known war. Violence was so foreign to Rillan culture that they barely had words for it in their language. Dr. Yuki could. "You look at sample 7 again?" called out her assistant Tae-hyun, a young Vexari whose large eyes reflected his constant curiosity. The Vexari were even more peaceful than the Rillans, if such a thing was possible. Their species had evolved on a world where cooperation meant survival, and aggression had been bred out of them thousands of years ago. Station Commander Suho walked quietly through the laboratory sections, his own scales a calming shade of purple that indicated contentment. At 60 years old, he was considered young for a station commander, but his gentle wisdom had earned him respect among all the researchers. The station had been his home for 3 years now, and he loved the peaceful work they did here. The communications array sat in the center of the station, managed by Minho, a Vexari who had spent most of his life studying languages. He could speak 12 different alien tongues and was working on learning a 13th. His job was to monitor space traffic and relay messages between the station and the Galactic Council headquarters. Everything changed in a single moment. The first explosion rocked the station so hard that Yuki's samples scattered across the floor. Emergency lights began flashing red as the station's automated system screamed warnings in 3 languages. Through the laboratory windows, Yuki could see strange ships approaching fast. They were dark and angular, nothing like the smooth, curved vessels that peaceful species preferred. "All personnel to emergency stations," Commander Suho's voice echoed through the corridors, though his tone remained calm despite the fear Yuki could hear underneath. "We are under attack by unknown vessels." Yuki had never heard those words before. Under attack was a phrase from historical texts, not something that happened in real life. Her hands shook as she tried to understand what was happening. Her people had been part of galactic society for over 200 years, and nothing like this had ever occurred. The attacking ships fired again, and this time the station's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the energy. But Yuki could see the shield indicators on the wall displays, and they were dropping fast. Whatever weapons these strangers used were far more powerful than anything the research station was designed to handle. Tae-hyun grabbed Yuki's arm, his large eyes wide with terror. "What do they want? We're just scientists. We don't have anything valuable except rock samples." Before Yuki could answer, another blast shook the station. This time she heard the awful sound of metal tearing. Somewhere on the outer ring, the hull had been breached. The environmental systems immediately sealed that section, but 3 researchers had been working there. She hoped they had escaped. In time. Commander Suho's voice came over the communications again, and now the fear was clear. "Hull breach on Section 7. Medical teams to Emergency Bay 2. All non-essential personnel move to the Central Core immediately." Yuki and Tae-hyun ran through the corridors with dozens of other researchers. Most of them were crying. The Vexari made soft whistling sounds when they were afraid, and the hallways filled with their terrified music. The few Zurani scientists clicked their mandibles nervously, a sound that made everyone else even more scared. In the communications center, Minho worked frantically at his console. His normally steady hands shook as he tried to boost the signal strength. The attacking ships were using some kind of jamming technology, making it hard to send messages beyond the immediate area. "Commander Suho," Minho called out, "I can barely get a signal through their interference, but I think I can reach the emergency frequencies." "Do it," Suho replied immediately. "Send a distress call on all channels. Someone has to know we're in trouble." Minho's fingers flew over the controls as another explosion rocked the station. The shields were down to 30% now, and the attacking ships showed no signs of stopping. He had never sent a distress call before. None of them had. This was the first time in over a century that anyone had attacked a Galactic Council research facility. "This is Research Station Kepler 442b. Minho spoke into the transmitter, his voice breaking with fear. "We are under attack by unknown hostiles. Requesting immediate assistance. We have wounded. Repeat, we have wounded and are taking heavy casualties." The message burst out from the station on dozens of different frequencies, racing through space at the speed of light. It would take time to reach anyone who could help, and Minho wasn't sure they had that much time. The attacking ships were moving closer, and their weapons were getting more accurate. In the central core, nearly 50 researchers huddled together in terror. Most of them had never even seen a weapon before, let alone been attacked by one. Dr. Yuki tried to comfort some of the younger scientists, but her own fear made it difficult. Her species had no instincts for this kind of situation. Evolution had never prepared them for violence. "Who would do this?" whispered one of the Zurani researchers, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "We're studying rocks, just rocks. Why would anyone want to hurt us?" Nobody had an answer. The concept of attacking innocent researchers was so foreign that none of them could understand it. In their peaceful corner of the galaxy, such things simply didn't happen. Wars were historical events, things that primitive species had done long ago before joining galactic civilization. Commander Suho moved among the frightened scientists, trying to keep everyone calm even though his own scales had turned dark gray with fear. "Help is coming," he told them, though he had no way of knowing if that was true. The distress call went out. "Someone will respond." Outside the station, the attacking ships circled like predators. They were pirates from the Thakran Empire, a warrior species that had never fully embraced the peaceful ways of the Galactic Council. To them, the research station looked like easy prey. Soft, helpless creatures with no defenses worth mentioning. The Thakran captain studied his display screens with satisfaction. The station's shields were almost gone, and then they could board and take whatever they wanted. These peaceful species always had valuable technology, and their ships could be sold for good money in the outer systems. But the distress call was already racing through space, carrying its plea for help to anyone who might be listening. And in a star system very far away, creatures who had evolved on a world of constant danger were about to hear that innocent people were in trouble. The message would reach Earth in 6 hours. Admiral Hyun sat in the command center of Luna Base, drinking his morning coffee while reviewing the night's reports. Earth's defense network had been quiet lately, which was exactly how he preferred it. At 55 years old, he had seen enough conflict during the resource wars to appreciate peaceful times. The Admiral was a tall man with graying hair and careful eyes. His family had come from old Korea, and he still kept some of the traditional values his grandmother had taught him. Protect the innocent, honor your duties, never leave anyone behind. "Sir," called Lieutenant Bora from the communication station. "We're getting something strange on the emergency frequencies." Hyun set down his coffee and walked over to her station. Bora was one of their best communications officers, trained to handle first contact situations. If she said something was strange, it was worth investigating. What kind of strange? Hyun asked, looking over her shoulder at the displays. It's a distress call, but not from any human ship. The language is, well, we've never heard it before. The computer is working on translation, but it's definitely alien. Hyun felt his pulse quicken. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 8 months ago. They were still the new species, still learning how things worked in the bigger universe. Most alien contact had been formal meetings and careful diplomatic exchanges. A distress call was something entirely different. "How long until we have a translation?" he asked. "Maybe 10 minutes, sir. The AI is comparing it to the language databases we got from the Council." While they waited, Hyun called Captain Ji-won aboard the battleship Indomitable. She was one of Earth's finest naval officers, a woman who had earned her command through skill and courage during the Mars conflicts. Her ship was currently stationed near Jupiter, running training exercises with the Third Fleet. "Captain, we may have a situation developing," Hyun told her over the secure channel. "Stand by for possible emergency deployment." Ji-won's voice came back immediately, crisp and professional. "Understood, Admiral. What's the nature of the emergency?" "Alien distress call. Unknown language. We're working on translation now." There was a pause, and Hyun could almost hear Ji-won thinking. First contact situations were always delicate, but a distress call meant people were in danger. That changed everything. "I'll prep the ship for immediate departure," Ji-won said, standing by for orders. Back at the communications station, Lieutenant. Bora's computer finally finished its translation work. The alien words slowly changed into English on her screen, and what she read made her face go pale. "Admiral!" she called out, her voice tight with concern. "You need to see this!" Hyun hurried back to her station and read the translated message. The words hit him like a physical blow. "Research Station Kepler 442b, under attack by unknown hostiles. Requesting immediate assistance. We have wounded. Repeat, we have wounded and are taking heavy casualties." For a moment, the command center was completely silent. Then Hyun's training kicked in, along with every protective instinct that evolution had built into humanity over millions of years of warfare and survival. "Get me everything we know about this research station Kepler 442b, he ordered. "Location, personnel, mission details. I want it all in 5 minutes." Lieutenant Kiwoo at the tactical station immediately began pulling up star charts and databases. He was young but brilliant, one of the new generation of officers trained specifically for galactic operations. "Sir," Kiwoo reported, "Kepler 442b is approximately 1,200 light-years from Earth. The station appears to be a joint research facility operated by 3 alien species. Personnel count shows 47 individuals, all civilians. No military presence." The number hit Hyun hard. 47 people, researchers, scientists who spent their time studying rocks and plants, not soldiers who knew how to fight. And someone was attacking them. "What kind of species are we talking about?" Hyun asked. Kiwoo consulted his database. "Rillans, Vexari, and Zurani. According to our diplomatic files, they're all peaceful species. The Rillans and Vexari have never been involved in any military conflicts. The Zurani are traitors, but also non-violent." Lieutenant Bora looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm trying to get more details on the attack, but the signal is very weak. It sounds like their communications are being jammed." Hyun closed his eyes and thought fast. 47 innocent people under attack by unknown hostiles. No military protection, no way to defend themselves, and probably no one else close enough to help in time. He opened his eyes and his expression was hard as steel. Lieutenant Kiwu, how fast can we get a fleet to Kepler 442b? With maximum burn and our newest jump drives? Maybe 8 hours, sir. And how long can a research station hold out against a military attack? Kiwu's face was grim. Based on the shield technology mentioned in the diplomatic files, not long, sir. Maybe a few hours at most. Hyun made his decision. In human military doctrine, there was no such thing as an acceptable loss when innocent people were involved. Earth had learned that lesson the hard way during the climate wars and the resource conflicts. Never again would they stand by while people suffered. Signal the Fifth Fleet, Hyun ordered. Full emergency deployment. I want every ship we can spare heading for Kepler 442b immediately. Sir, Lieutenant Bora said carefully, the Fifth Fleet is 847 ships. That's almost our entire deep space navy. I know exactly how many ships it is, Hyun replied firmly. Signal them all. Captain Ji-won's voice crackled over the communications system. Admiral, Indomitable is ready for immediate departure. What are our orders? Captain, you're leading a humanitarian rescue mission. 47 civilian researchers are under attack by unknown hostiles. We're sending everything we have. There was a brief pause. Then Ji-won's voice came back with absolute determination. Understood, sir. We're launching now. Across the Sol system, humanity began to move with the terrifying efficiency that had helped them survive as a species. Ship after ship received the emergency signal and began preparations for the longest jump in human military history. The Indomitable was the first to launch, her massive engines burning bright as she accelerated toward the jump point. Behind her, hundreds of other ships began their own launch sequences. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, carriers, support vessels. The entire might of Earth's space navy mobilizing for a single purpose. In the command center, Admiral Hyun watched the tactical display as ship after ship reported ready for departure. Each one represented years of human engineering and thousands of trained personnel. All of it focused on saving 47 people they had never met. Sir, Lieutenant Kiwu said quietly, the other council species, they might think this is an overreaction. Most species would send maybe 1 or 2 ships for a rescue mission. Hyun looked at the young officer with eyes that had seen too much war. Lieutenant, when innocent people call for help, there's no such thing as an overreaction. We're going to save every single person on that station. The massive fleet began its jump toward Kepler 442b, carrying with it the full fury of a species that had learned to protect its own by protecting everyone. The carrier ship Retribution shuddered as its massive engines came online, preparing for the long jump to Kepler 442b. Deep in the ship's belly, Sergeant Major Daeho walked through the Marine barracks, watching his soldiers prepare for what might be their first real combat since the Mars uprising. Daeho was a big man, even by human standards. His arms were covered in scars from old battles, and his face showed the kind of calm that only came from years of fighting. At 42 years old, he had served in 3 different wars and countless smaller conflicts, but this mission felt different. Listen up, Marines, Daeho called out to his assembled troops. The 15th Marine Assault Battalion was one of Earth's elite units, 500 men and women trained for the hardest missions. They stopped what they were doing and turned to face him. We're heading to a place called Kepler 442b, Daeho continued, his voice carrying easily through the large room. There's a research station there with 47 civilian scientists under attack by unknown hostiles. These aren't human civilians. They're aliens. But that doesn't matter. Private Jinwoo raised his hand. He was new to the unit, barely 20 years old and fresh from training. "Sergeant Major, what kind of aliens are we talking about?" "The peaceful kind," Daeho replied. "According to the briefing, these species have never fought a war. They don't even have weapons. Someone is attacking a bunch of scientists who spend their time looking at rocks." The Marines exchanged glances. Most of them had families back on Earth. The idea of someone attacking defenseless researchers made their blood boil. It went against every protective instinct that had kept humanity alive during its violent history. "Here's how this is going." "To work," Daeho continued. "We go in fast, we go in hard, and we make sure every single scientist gets home safely. I don't care if they have scales, tentacles, or 3 heads. They're under our protection now." Corporal Nayun was checking her rifle when she spoke up. "What about prisoners, Sergeant Major?" "If they surrender immediately, we'll take them prisoner," Daeho answered. "If they keep fighting while innocents are in danger, we solve the problem permanently." The Marines nodded grimly. They understood. Human military doctrine was clear about protecting civilians. It didn't matter what species those civilians belonged to. On the medical deck of the same ship, Dr. Sora was frantically reading through alien physiology files. As the fleet's chief xenobiologist, it was her job to make sure the human medical teams could treat alien patients. The problem was that humans had never treated these species before. Dr. Sora was a small woman with gentle hands and sharp intelligence. She had spent most of her career studying theoretical alien biology, never expecting to use that knowledge in an emergency situation. Now she was trying to compress years of research into a few hours of preparation. "Their bone structure is completely different from ours," she muttered to herself while studying Rillan anatomy charts. "Too much pressure, and we could snap their limbs just trying to help them." Her assistant, medical technician Wu Jin, was setting up specialized equipment in the emergency medical bay. "Doctor, I've configured the atmospheric controls for all 3 species. We can adjust gravity, air pressure, and oxygen levels as needed." "Good thinking," Dr. Sora replied. "What about their blood chemistry?" "That's the tricky part," Wu Jin admitted. "Some of our standard medications could be toxic to them. We'll have to be very careful." Dr. Sora nodded and continued reading. The responsibility weighed heavily on her. These alien researchers had probably never seen a human before. If they survived the attack, they would wake up in a human medical bay surrounded by creatures from a world classified as one of the most dangerous in the galaxy. Across the fleet, similar preparations were taking place. Captain Nari of the destroyer, Vengeance, was reviewing tactical data with her weapons officers. The ship was one of Earth's newest designs, built specifically for long-range operations in galactic space. "What do we know about the attacking ships?" asked Lieutenant Commander Sunho, her tactical officer. "Not much," Captain Nari replied, studying the limited sensor data they had received. "The distress call mentioned unknown hostiles, but we don't have visual confirmation or weapon specifications." "Orders, Captain?" Nari's expression was hard. "We treat any ship attacking civilians as a hostile combatant. Rules of engagement are weapons-free once we confirm they're targeting the research station." Meanwhile, aboard the flagship Indomitable, Captain Jiwon was coordinating with the other ship commanders through the fleet communication network. The scale of the operation was massive. 847 ships jumping across 1,200 light-years to respond to a single distress call. "All ships, this is Captain Jiwon," she broadcast to the entire fleet. "Jump sequence begins in 30 minutes. We're going in as a unified force. The mission is civilian rescue and protection. Every ship will maintain formation until we assess the tactical situation. Lieutenant Kiwoo, who had transferred to the Indomitable for this mission, was monitoring long-range communications. Captain, I'm still trying to raise the research station, but there's no response. Either their communications are down or they're already gone, Jiwon finished grimly. We'll assume they're still alive until we know otherwise. The jump preparation continued throughout the fleet. Engineers checked and double-checked the drive systems that would carry them across vast distances of space. Weapons officers loaded ammunition and charged energy banks. Medical teams prepared for mass casualties. In the launch bay of the carrier Perseus, fighter pilots ran through their pre-flight checks. Squadron leader Jin Hee had flown combat missions during the Titan Rebellion, but this felt bigger, more important. Remember, she told her pilots over the communication system, we're not just representing Earth out there. We're representing the idea that innocent people deserve protection, no matter who they are. The pilots responded with crisp acknowledgments. They understood the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. As the final minutes ticked down, Admiral Hyun's voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. All vessels, this is Admiral Hyun. In a few minutes, we will make the longest military jump in human history. We're going to save 47 people we've never met, from species we barely know, on a world most of us can't even pronounce. He paused, letting his words sink in. This is what humanity stands for. This is who we are. When someone calls for help, we answer. When innocents are threatened, we respond. Today, we show the galaxy what it means to be human. The jump countdown reached 0. Across the solar system, 847 human warships vanished into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes and fury of an entire species. They left behind a trail of distorted space-time and the promise that help was coming. The fleet raced through dimensions that had no name, crossing distances that would take light years to traverse. Every minute that passed meant the research station was in danger for 60 more seconds. Every hour meant the innocent scientists were suffering for another full rotation of their world. But humanity was coming, and they were bringing everything they had. Captain Vorthak studied the research station through his ship's viewing screen and snarled with frustration. The attack should have been over hours ago, but these soft prey species had somehow managed to keep their shields up longer than expected. Vorthak was a Thakran, a species that had conquered their way to the stars through pure aggression. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with thick armor-like skin and tusks that curved up from his lower jaw. His people believed that strength was the only virtue worth having, and weakness deserved no mercy. Commander Zethik, Vorthak growled to his second-in-command, why is that station still intact? Zethik was smaller than his captain, but just as vicious. His red eyes glowed with barely controlled anger as he checked the tactical displays. Their shields are stronger than our intelligence suggested, Captain, but they're down to 15% now. One more concentrated attack should break them. The Thakran raiding fleet consisted of 12 ships, ranging from small fighters to Vorthak's heavy cruiser Bloodclaw. It was more than enough firepower to destroy a defenseless research station, or so they had thought when they planned this raid. What about the distress call? Asked Navigation Officer Krutha, a female Thakran whose scars showed she had survived many battles. Let them call, Vorthak laughed harshly. By the time anyone responds, we'll be long gone with whatever valuables we can salvage. These peaceful species always have the best technology. The Thakrans had been raiding the outer systems for months, targeting isolated research stations and trading posts. They chose victims who couldn't fight back, taking what they wanted and disappearing before any real military force could respond. It was profitable and relatively safe. Besides, Vorthak continued, who would waste time rescuing a bunch of rock-studying weaklings? The Council navies have better things to do than chase pirates across half the galaxy. Inside the research station, the situation was growing desperate. The shields flickered and sparked as they struggled to absorb the continuous bombardment. Dr. Yuki huddled with the other researchers in the central core, trying to tend to the wounded while the station shook around them. Commander Suho moved carefully through the frightened group, his normally calm demeanor strained by the situation. His scales had turned dark gray with stress, and his large eyes showed the fear he was trying to hide from his people. The emergency bulkheads are holding, he reported to Dr. Yuki. But if they breach the main hull, we'll lose life support in the outer sections. 3 researchers had been injured when the pirates first attacked. Dr. Yuki was doing her best to treat them, but Rillan medical training focused on diseases and genetic disorders, not trauma from weapons fire. She had never seen injuries like these before. Young Tae-hyun sat nearby, his Vexari features pale with terror. Dr. Yuki, why are they doing this to us? We never hurt anyone. We just study crystals and minerals. Dr. Yuki didn't have an answer. Violence was so foreign to her people that she couldn't understand the motivation behind it. The concept of attacking someone for personal gain was literally incomprehensible to a species that had evolved through cooperation and mutual aid. Communications Officer Minho continued trying to boost their signal strength, hoping to get another message through the pirate jamming. His equipment was designed for scientific communications, not military operations, and the Thakran interference was sophisticated. I think I can get one more transmission out, Minho reported to Commander Suho. But it will probably burn out the main communications array. Do it, Suho replied without hesitation. If there's any chance of getting help, we have to try. Outside the station, Captain Vorthak was growing impatient. Target their power generators, he ordered his weapons officer. Once we knock out their main power, the shields will collapse. Captain, reported sensor technician Gorthak, I'm detecting some kind of transmission from the station. Very high power, directed toward the inner systems. Vorthak waved dismissively. Probably another distress call. Let them waste their power. It just makes our job easier. What the Thakran captain didn't know was that the research station's databases contained detailed information about a new species that had recently joined the Galactic Council. A species from something called a class, 12 Deathworld. A term that meant nothing to the peaceful researchers, but would have terrified any military commander who understood its implications. The Thakrans had never encountered humans before. Their intelligence networks focused on profitable targets and military threats, not on diplomatic exchanges or council politics. Earth was listed in their databases as under evaluation, a new member world with unknown capabilities. Captain, Zethek called out, their shields are at critical levels. One more volley should finish them. Vorthak smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Excellent. Signal the boarding parties to prepare for assault. I want to see what technology these soft creatures have been hiding. The Thakran ships moved into final attack position, their weapons charging for the killing blow. Captain Vorthak expected to be finished with this raid within the hour, with holds full of valuable research equipment and perhaps a few alien prisoners to sell in the slave markets of the Outer Rim. But space around Kepler 442b was about to become very crowded. The research station's final distress call raced through space at the speed of light, carrying with it coordinates, tactical information, and a desperate plea for help. It would reach, Earth's monitoring stations in just a few hours, but the human fleet was already in hyperspace, racing toward the battle at speeds that defied conventional physics. Inside the station, the researchers huddled together as the lights flickered and the artificial gravity fluctuated. They could hear the hull groaning under the stress of the bombardment. Some of them were crying. Others sat in shocked silence, unable to process what was happening to them. Dr. Yuki held Taehyun's hand and whispered reassurances she didn't believe herself. "Help is coming," she told him. "Someone heard our call. Help is coming." Commander Suho checked the status displays one more time. Shields at 8% and falling. Hull integrity holding, but barely. Emergency power reserves at 30%. They had maybe 20 minutes before the station's defenses failed completely. "Minho," he called to the communications officer. "Any response to our distress calls?" Minho shook his head sadly. "Nothing, Commander. Either no one is close enough to help, or no one is willing to try." Captain Vorthak's voice boomed through the station's speakers as he opened a communication channel. "Attention Research Station. This is Captain Vorthak of the Thakran Empire. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the destruction of your vessel and the death of all aboard." The Thakran captain expected immediate surrender. Most peaceful species gave up the moment they faced real violence. It was easier than fighting a battle they couldn't win, but Commander Suho surprised him. "This is Commander Suho of Galactic Council Research Station, Kepler 442b, came the reply, the alien's voice steady despite his obvious fear. "We are a civilian research facility conducting scientific studies under Council protection. Your attack violates 17 different galactic treaties." Vorthak laughed. "Treaties are for the weak. You have 30 seconds to surrender before I finish destroying your station." The countdown began, and the Thakran ships prepared for their final attack. Captain Vorthak was confident in his victory. After all, what could possibly go wrong when attacking a bunch of defenseless scientists? He was about to find out exactly what humanity thought about people who threatened innocent researchers. The space around Kepler 442b had been empty except for the research station and the 12 Thakran pirate ships. Then, in a single moment that changed everything, 847 human warships materialized from hyperspace like an avalanche of metal and fury. Captain Vorthak was in the middle of issuing his final ultimatum when his sensor officer suddenly screamed in terror. "Captain, massive hyperspace signatures, ships dropping out of jump space." The Thakran captain spun toward his displays, expecting to see perhaps a single council patrol ship or maybe a small rescue vessel. What he saw instead made his blood freeze in his veins. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships arranged in a pattern that spoke of military precision and overwhelming force. The smallest human destroyer was larger than Vorthak's flagship, and there were hundreds of them. Behind the destroyers came cruisers, battleships, and massive carriers that dwarfed anything the Thakran Empire had ever built. "By the seven hells!" whispered Commander Zethik, his voice barely audible. "What are those things?" Captain Jiwon stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical displays as her fleet completed its jump. 8 hours of travel across impossible distances, and they had arrived to find the research station still intact but badly damaged. The pirate ships were small and primitive compared to human technology, but they were still attacking innocent people. "All ships, battle stations," Jiwon ordered calmly. "Target acquisition on all hostile vessels. We have visual confirmation of an active attack on civilian researchers." Lieutenant Kiwoo worked quickly at his station, analyzing the tactical situation. "Captain, I count 12 attacking vessels. Configuration suggests pirate raiders. The research station's shields are at critical levels. Open a channel to the attacking ships, Jiwan commanded. All frequencies. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Captain. Jiwan's voice cut through space like a blade. This is Captain Jiwan of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are engaged in hostile actions against civilian researchers. You have 30 seconds to cease fire and surrender, or we will interpret your actions as an act of war. Aboard the research station, Communications Officer Minho stared at his sensors in complete disbelief. The display showed so many ships that his equipment couldn't count them all accurately. His hands shook as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Commander Suho, Minho called out, his voice breaking with emotion. The rescue fleet! There are hundreds of them! Commander Suho rushed to the communications station and looked at the sensor readings. His large eyes grew even wider as he processed the information. How many ships? I can't get an exact count, Minho replied. The computer says at least 800, maybe more. Dr. Yuki overheard the conversation and felt her legs go weak. 800 ships? For 47 researchers? What kind of species would send such a massive fleet for a simple rescue mission? Captain Vorthak tried to process what he was seeing on his own displays. The human ships were arranged in what was clearly a battle formation, their weapons trained, on his small fleet. Energy readings from their weapon systems were off the charts, far beyond anything in the Thakran military arsenal. Unknown vessels, Vorthak transmitted, trying to keep his voice steady. This is a minor territorial dispute. These research facilities are operating in contested space. Withdraw immediately or face the wrath of the Thakran Empire. The response came from Lieutenant Kiwu aboard the Indomitable, his voice cold as space itself. You have 15 seconds. On the human ships, weapons officers checked their targeting systems and awaited orders. The pirate vessels were so small and primitive that hitting them would be like swatting insects, but those insects were threatening innocent people. Sergeant Major Deho stood in the launch bay of the Retribution, watching his Marines load into assault shuttles. Remember, he told his troops, we're dealing with pirates who attack research stations. They've shown they're willing to hurt innocent people. We respond accordingly. The Marines nodded grimly. They had trained for this kind of operation, but seeing it happen in real life was different. These weren't human civilians under attack, but that didn't matter. Innocent was innocent, regardless of species. Dr. Sora monitored the tactical situation from the medical bay, preparing to treat both human casualties and alien researchers. The readings from the station showed the alien life signs were weak and terrified, but still alive. Captain Vorthak realized he was facing a force that could destroy his entire fleet without effort. The smart thing would be to surrender immediately, but Thakran pride and stupidity made him consider fighting instead. Captain, Zethik hissed urgently. We need to run, now. Those ships could vaporize us. But Vorthak was a pirate and a bully, used to dealing with victims who couldn't fight back. The idea of surrendering to anyone, even overwhelming force, went against everything his culture had taught him. Thakrans don't run from soft prey species, he snarled. Signal the fleet. Prepare to attack the lead ship. Maybe if we hurt them, they'll back down. It was the last mistake Captain Vorthak would ever make. Aboard the research station, the scientists watched their sensors in amazement and terror. The human fleet was so large, it filled their entire display screen. Dr. Yuki couldn't understand why anyone would send so many ships to rescue a small group of researchers. Who are these humans? Taehyun whispered. What kind of species travels with so many warships? Commander Suho was asking himself the same question. According to the limited information in their databases, humans came from something called a deathworld. The term had seemed like a curiosity when he first read it. Now, seeing this massive fleet, he was beginning to understand what it might actually mean. Captain Jiwon watched the countdown timer on her display. The pirates had been given a chance to surrender peacefully. That chance was about to expire. All ships, she broadcast to her fleet. Weapons free. Target the attacking vessels. Primary objective is to neutralize the threat to civilian researchers. Secondary objective is to capture intelligence about pirate operations in this sector. The human weapons officers selected their targets with professional precision. Each pirate ship was assigned to multiple human vessels, ensuring that the threat would be eliminated quickly and completely. Lieutenant Kiwoo's voice echoed across the communication channels. Time's up. The countdown reached 0, and the Thakran, pirates discovered what happened when a species evolved on a death world, decided that innocent people needed protection. The universe was about to become a much more dangerous place for anyone who thought attacking researchers was an acceptable way to make a living. When the 30-second deadline expired, the human fleet demonstrated exactly why Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. The response was swift, overwhelming, and absolutely terrifying to anyone watching. The Indomitable fired first. Her main railguns launched projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, while her energy weapons carved through space with deadly precision. The combined firepower from Captain Jiwon's flagship alone was more than most species used in entire wars. Captain Vorthak's ship Bloodclaw tried to return fire, but his weapons simply bounced off the human ship's shields like raindrops hitting a mountain. The energy readings from the Indomitable's defensive systems were beyond anything in Thakran technology. Impossible, Vorthak breathed, watching his most powerful weapons fail to even scratch the human vessel. What kind of species builds ships like this? He was about to find out. The other human ships opened fire in a coordinated barrage that lit up space like a miniature star. Hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously, each shot calculated and precise. The Thakran pirates had never faced anything like it. The first pirate ship to die was the Raider Skullrender. 3 human destroyers targeted it at once, and the combined firepower simply erased it from existence. One moment it was there, the next it was expanding gas and debris. "Evasive maneuvers!" Vorthak screamed at his pilot, but it was already too late. The human targeting systems tracked his movements effortlessly, predicting his course changes before he made them. Aboard the research station, Dr. Yuki and the other scientists watched in shocked silence as the space battle unfolded. The human weapons created brilliant flashes of light every time they fired, and each flash meant another pirate ship was destroyed. "They're not even slowing down," whispered Commander Suho, staring at the tactical display. "The human ships are destroying the pirates like they're not even there." Communications Officer Minho was trying to record everything for later analysis, but his equipment wasn't designed to track battles of this intensity. "The humans are using some kind of advanced targeting system. Each shot is hitting exactly where they aim it." Meanwhile, Sergeant Major Daho's Marines were launching from the carrier Retribution in assault shuttles, heading for the few pirate ships that were still intact. Their orders were to capture intelligence and take prisoners if possible. Remember, Daiho told his troops over the communication system these pirates were shooting at defenseless researchers. "They've shown their true nature. We respond accordingly, but by the book." The assault shuttles were small and fast, designed to carry Marines directly into enemy ships during boarding operations. They had heavy armor and shields that could withstand most weapons, but the pirates were too busy trying to survive the main battle to target them. Captain Vorthak's ship was one of the few still fighting when the Marine shuttles reached it. The Bloodclaw's hull was already damaged from human weapons fire, and its shields were completely gone. "Boarding craft incoming!" shouted sensor technician Gorthak. "They're targeting our docking bays." Vorthak drew his ceremonial sword, a curved blade that had been in his family for generations. "All hands, prepare to repel boarders, fight to the death!" But when the human Marines actually breached his ship, Vorthak discovered that his people's reputation as fierce warriors meant nothing against soldiers who had evolved on a death world. The Marines moved through the ship like a force of nature. They wore powered armor that made them look even larger and more intimidating than normal humans, and their weapons cut through Thakran defenses with ease. Private Jinwoo was part of the first boarding team, and he had never seen aliens this close before. The Thakrans were bigger than humans, with thick skin and impressive-looking tusks, but they seemed terrified of the Marines. "Surrender, and you will not be harmed," Jinwoo called out in the Thakran language, using the translation device built into his armor. "Continue fighting, and we will stop you permanently." Several pirates immediately threw down their weapons and raised their hands. Others tried to fight and learned why human military training was considered among the best in the galaxy. "Sergeant." Major Daeho cornered Captain Vorthak in the ship's command center. The Thakran captain stood nearly 8 feet tall and probably weighed twice as much as any human, but he was backing away from Daeho with obvious fear. "You attacked innocent researchers," Daeho said, his voice amplified by his armor's speakers. "People who never hurt anyone. People who spent their time studying rocks." Vorthak tried to swing his sword, but Daeho caught his wrist effortlessly. The Marine's powered armor gave him strength that no biological creature could match. "I surrender." Vorthak gasped as Daeho's grip tightened. "I surrender, please don't kill me." "Should have thought of that before you attacked a research station," Daeho replied, but he followed human military protocol and secured the pirate captain instead of executing him. The entire battle lasted exactly 8 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, the Thakran pirate fleet had been completely destroyed except for 3 ships that the humans had boarded and captured. Captain Jiwon surveyed the aftermath from her bridge. "Tactical report, Lieutenant Kiwoo." "All hostile vessels neutralized, Captain. We have captured 43 pirates, including their leader. Intelligence teams are already analyzing their ship databases." "Casualties?" "None on our side, Captain. The pirates never got through our shields. Dr. Sora was monitoring the medical situation from the fleet's hospital ships. Captain, I'm reading life signs from the research station. They're weak but stable. Requesting permission to begin rescue operations." "Permission granted," Jiwon replied immediately. "All ships secure the area. Rescue teams to the research station. Medical teams stand by to receive alien casualties." Aboard the research station, the scientists couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. The most powerful pirate fleet anyone had seen in this sector had been swept away like dust by creatures they had never heard of before. Dr. Yuki looked at her fellow researchers, all of them still shaking from the attack and the rescue. "What kind of species does this?" she asked. "What kind of people send 800 warships to save 47? Researchers?" Commander Suho was studying the sensor readings, trying to understand what had just happened. "According to our databases, humans come from something called a death world. I think we're beginning to understand what that means." Young Taehyun was, still crying, but now it was from relief rather than fear. "They came for us. They actually came for us. I thought we were going to die." Communications Officer Minho was already preparing to send a message to the human fleet. Commander, the humans are requesting permission to come aboard and provide medical assistance. Suho nodded immediately. Tell them they have full permission. And Minho, tell them thank you. As the human rescue teams prepared to dock with the A research station, word of the battle was already spreading through space. The destruction of the Thakran pirate fleet would be talked about for years to come. But more importantly, it would send a message to every criminal organization in the galaxy. Attacking innocent researchers was no longer a safe way to make a living. The humans had made that very clear. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to have Deathworlders as protectors instead of conquerors. Dr. Sora stood at the airlock of the research station, adjusting her equipment one final time before making contact with the alien researchers. She was a small woman by human standards, barely 5.5 feet tall, but she knew that to the creatures inside the station, she would appear as a giant from a terrifying world. Remember, she told her medical team through their communication devices, these species have never encountered violence like what they just experienced. They're probably in shock. Move slowly, speak softly, and let them see your hands at all times. Medical technician Wu Jin nodded nervously. Doctor, what if they're afraid of us? The database says these species are naturally peaceful. We just destroyed an entire fleet in front of them. That's exactly why we need to be careful, Dr. Sora replied. They probably think we're as dangerous as the pirates were. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Dr. Sora stepped into the research station for humanity's first real contact with alien civilians. The artificial gravity was lighter than Earth normal, and the air had a slightly sweet smell that her scanner identified as harmless. The first thing she saw was Commander Suho, and she had to control her reaction. The Rillan commander was barely 4 feet tall, with soft blue-green scales and large eyes that showed both gratitude and terror. His entire body was trembling. "Hello?" Dr. Sora said gently, using the translation device she wore on her collar. "My name is Dr. Sora. I'm a physician. We're here to help." Commander Suho stared up at her for a long moment, trying to process what he was seeing. This creature was twice his size and came from a world that had just demonstrated military power beyond imagination. But her voice was kind, and her movements were careful and non-threatening. You came," Suho managed to say. "You actually came to help us." "Of course we came," Dr. Sora replied, crouching down to bring herself closer to the alien's eye level. "You called for help. People were in danger." Behind Commander Suho, Dr. Yuki peered around a corner, her large eyes wide with curiosity and fear. She had never seen a creature like this human before. Dr. Sora noticed her and smiled gently. "Hello there," Dr. Sora said to Dr. Yuki. "Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" Dr. Yuki slowly approached, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "You're really from a death world?" she asked in a whisper. Dr. Sora wasn't sure how to answer that question. "Our world is challenging," she said carefully. "But that doesn't make us monsters. We protect people who need protecting." Medical technician Wu Jin entered the station, carrying emergency medical supplies specifically configured for alien physiology. When the research station's personnel saw him, several of them backed away in fear. He was over 6 feet tall and built like a soldier, despite being a medic. "I know we look frightening," Wu Jin said gently, "but we're doctors. We want to help anyone who's been injured." Young Taehyun was hiding behind Dr. Yuki, staring at the humans with fascination. Are you really going to hurt the pirates? He asked. Dr. Sora exchanged glances with Wu Jin. How do you explain human justice to species that had never known violence? The pirates will be taken to our ships and held safely, she said carefully. They won't be able to hurt anyone else. But why did you send so many ships? Dr. Yuki asked, her scientific mind trying to understand human behavior. There are only 47 of us. You could have rescued us with just one vessel. Dr. Sora smiled sadly. When we heard that innocent people were under attack, we sent everything we could. That's what my people do. Communications Officer Minho approached slowly, still limping from an injury he had sustained during the attack. The human ships, how many are there? 847, Wu Jin replied. The entire Fifth Fleet. The number hit the alien researchers like a physical blow. Commander Suho's scales turned pale gray with shock. Your entire fleet? For us? For anyone who needs help, Dr. Sora confirmed. It doesn't matter what species you are or where you come from. If innocent people are in danger, humans respond. Meanwhile, Captain Jaiwan was coordinating the broader rescue operation from the Indomitable. Her ship had docked with the research station's main airlock, allowing for easier transfer of medical equipment and personnel. Dr. Sora, Captain Jiwan's voice came through the communication system. How are our guests doing? They're physically okay, Captain, Dr. Sora replied. Some minor injuries, mostly from debris during the attack, but they're emotionally traumatized. They've never experienced anything like this before. Understood. Take all the time you need. Dr. Yuki had overcome her initial fear and was now studying Dr. Sora with intense scientific interest. Your species evolved on a world with constant danger? Yes, Dr. Sora answered honestly. Our world taught us to be strong so we could protect each other, and now we protect anyone who needs it. But you could have conquered us instead, Dr. Yuki pointed out. Your ships are more powerful than anything we've ever seen. Why help instead of taking what you want? The question struck Dr. Sora as deeply sad. These gentle creatures couldn't understand why anyone would choose protection over conquest. Because that's not who we are, she said simply. Humans protect. We don't prey on the innocent. Commander Suho was beginning to understand something important about these strange deathworlders. You're pack hunters, he said suddenly. But your pack includes everyone who needs protection. Dr. Sora smiled. That's actually a very good way to put it. As the medical teams continued their work, word of the rescue was spreading throughout the research station. The alien scientists were discovering that the terrifying creatures from the Deathworld were gentle healers when dealing with innocent people. Taehyun had stopped hiding and was now asking Dr. Sora questions about human biology. Do you really have only 2 eyes? How do you see behind you? We turn our heads, Dr. Sora laughed, demonstrating, and we listen very carefully. The young Vexari's excitement was infectious, and soon other researchers were approaching with their own questions. The fear was being replaced by curiosity, which Dr. Sora recognized as a very good sign. Dr. Sora, Commander Suho said quietly, I need to ask you something. The pirates, what will happen to them? Dr. Sora's expression became serious. They'll be tried according to galactic law. The evidence of their attack on your station will be presented to the appropriate authorities. Will they be executed? Suho asked. Not by us, Dr. Sora replied. Humans believe in justice, not revenge. But they'll never be able to hurt innocent people again. The conversation was interrupted by Captain Ji-won's voice over the communication system. All personnel, prepare for departure. We're escorting the research station to the nearest council facility for repairs and debriefing. Dr. Yuki looked panic-stricken. You're leaving? We're escorting you to safety, Dr. Sora corrected. The entire fleet will make sure you get home safely. Commander Suho felt something he had never experienced before. The protection of a stronger species that asked for nothing in return. Dr. Sora, how can we ever thank you? Dr. Sora stood up, her work finished. You don't need to thank us, Commander. Just remember that if you ever need help again, humans will answer. As the human medical teams prepared to return to their ships, the alien researchers watched them go with a mixture of gratitude and awe. They had been saved by creatures from a death world, but those creatures had turned out to be protectors rather than predators. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about judging species by their origins rather than their actions. 6 months after the Kepler incident, Dr. Yuki stood before the Galactic Council in the Great Assembly Hall on Centauri Prime. The hall was vast, designed to accommodate representatives from hundreds of different species, but today all attention was focused on one small Rillan scientist and her testimony about humanity. Dr. Yuki had changed since the attack. She was still the same gentle researcher, but now she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had witnessed true strength used for protection rather than conquest. Her blue-green scales had regained their healthy shimmer, and her large eyes showed determination rather than fear. Honored council members, Dr. Yuki began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. I stand before you today to speak about the species known as humans, and about an event that has changed how I understand the meaning of strength. In the observer section, Admiral Hyun sat uncomfortably in a chair designed for much smaller beings. The human delegation had been invited to witness the testimony, but Hyun would have preferred to be anywhere else. To him, the rescue operation had been a standard humanitarian response. He still didn't understand why the galaxy was making such a big deal about it. 6 months ago, Dr. Yuki continued, my research station was attacked by Thakran pirates. We had no defenses, no weapons, no way to protect ourselves. We sent out a distress call hoping that someone, somewhere, might be able to help us. Council. Representative Vorthok, a peaceful Centaurian diplomat, leaned forward with interest. The Kepler incident had been the subject of intense discussion throughout the galactic community for months. What happened next? Dr. Yuki said, her voice growing stronger. Changed everything I thought I knew about strength and power. The humans didn't send a single rescue ship. They didn't send a small patrol. They sent their entire Fifth Fleet, 847 warships. A murmur ran through the assembly hall. Even 6 months later, the numbers were difficult to believe. But here's what you need to understand, Dr. Yuki continued. They didn't come to conquer. They didn't come to take our technology or claim our territory. They came because they heard that innocent people were in danger and they couldn't stand the thought of anyone suffering while they had the power to help. Admiral Hyun shifted in his seat. The alien attention made him uncomfortable, but he was proud of his people's actions that day. Communications Officer Minho, who had also been invited to testify, stood up to address the council. I was the one who sent the distress call, he said. I never expected anyone to respond, let alone with such overwhelming force. But when I asked Captain Ji-won why they had sent so many ships, she looked confused by the question. Minho paused, remembering the conversation. She said it was a standard humanitarian response. To humans, there's no such thing as sending too much help when innocent people are threatened. In the human section, Captain Jiwon nodded slightly. She was now commanding the first joint human-alien research vessel, a project that had grown out of the friendships formed during the rescue. Several alien scientists, including Dr. Yuki, had volunteered to serve alongside human crews. Council Representative Vorthok raised a delicate hand. Dr. Yuki, you mentioned that the humans destroyed the entire pirate fleet. Were you not concerned about their capacity for violence? Dr. Yuki smiled, remembering Dr. Sora's gentle hands as she treated the wounded researchers. Honored Representative, I learned something important that day. Violence and cruelty are not the same thing. The humans were capable of incredible destruction. Yes, but they used that power only to protect us. When their medical teams came aboard our station, they moved like gentle giants, afraid of accidentally hurting us. Young Tae-hyun, now working as a cultural liaison between species, stood to add his own testimony. The human Marines who captured the pirates could have killed them all. Instead, they followed their laws about prisoners and justice. They were warriors, but they were honorable warriors. The council chamber fell silent as the representatives considered what they were hearing. For most galactic species, the idea of overwhelming military force being used purely for protection was difficult. To understand, Admiral Hyun was asked to address the council directly. He stood slowly, his height making him tower over most of the alien representatives. Honored Council, he said, his voice calm and measured. What my people did at Kepler 442b was not unusual by our standards. When someone calls for help, we respond with everything we have. It doesn't matter if they're human or alien, friend or stranger. Innocent people deserve protection. Representative Vorthok asked the question that had been troubling the galactic community for months. Admiral Hyun, your response to a simple pirate attack was larger than most of our species' entire military forces. How do we know that such power won't be used for conquest? Admiral Hyun considered the question carefully. Because that's not who we are, he said finally. Humans protect. We don't prey on the innocent. Judge us by our actions, not by our capabilities. Dr. Yuki stepped forward again. If I may, honored council, I would like to share what I've learned while working with humans over these past months. She gestured to Captain Jiwon, who joined her at the speaker's platform. Captain Jiwon commands a research vessel with a crew of 43 beings from 7 different species. Every day, I watch humans work alongside aliens who are physically weaker, smaller, and more vulnerable than they are. And every day, I see them use their strength to help rather than to dominate. Captain Jiwon spoke for the first time during the session. The galaxy taught my people about science and diplomacy. In return, we offer our protection to anyone who needs it. It seems like a fair trade. The session continued for several more hours, with testimony from other researchers and officials who had interacted with humans since the Kepler incident. By the end, a clear picture had emerged of a species that used overwhelming power with remarkable restraint. When the formal testimony was complete, the council went into private session to discuss their findings. Dr. Yuki and the human delegation were invited to wait in the diplomatic quarters while the representatives debated. Dr. Yuki, Admiral Hyun said quietly, I need to ask you something. Do you really believe what you told the council about my people? Dr. Yuki looked up at the tall human admiral, remembering the fear she had felt when she first saw Dr. Sora. Admiral, 6 months ago I thought creatures from Deathworlds were monsters. Now I know better. You're protectors. The galaxy is safer because you're in it. 3 days later, the Galactic Council announced their decision. Humanity would be granted full membership with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. More importantly, they would be invited to establish protection agreements with peaceful species throughout the galaxy. The announcement sent shockwaves through the criminal organizations that preyed on defenseless worlds. The Thakran Empire, formally, apologized for the actions of their pirates and agreed to pay reparations to the research station. Several other aggressive species quietly withdrew from disputed territories. Research stations across the galaxy began displaying small blue and green flags, the colors of Earth, as a symbol of protection. Pirates and raiders learned to check for those flags before approaching any facility. Dr. Yuki returned to her research work, but now she served aboard Captain Jiwan's ship, studying crystalline formations on worlds that had never been safe to visit before. The protection of the human fleet allowed scientists to explore places that pirates had previously made too dangerous. Commander Suho established a new research facility in the Kepler system, this time with a permanent human security detail. The facility became a model for cooperation between species, showing what could be accomplished when strength was used to protect rather than threaten. Admiral Hyun continued to command Earth's defense forces, but now those forces were spread throughout the galaxy, standing guard over peaceful species who had never known such protection before. And in the far reaches of space, where pirates and raiders had once hunted defenseless prey, a new message was spreading. The humans were watching, and they protected everyone. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Deathworlders didn't have to be conquerors. Sometimes they could be guardians instead. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as the strongest predator, but as the most reliable protector, and the universe was a better place for it.